All right,
See if it'll work.
it works. Perfect. Okay, so I just had an outline of topics I wanted to talk to you all about today. Being the budget calendar. Then Jeff Niebauer came and gave you all the revow presentation. Just want to give you an update on that. Walk through how we get to that revenue neutral tax rate. Then we have some budget updates and then just finance department updates as a whole. So the budget calendar, and you all may have physical copies of that.
We do. I do.
Perfect. So just outline here where we are today. We'll get the budget worksheets out to the department heads by the end of next week. The revenue estimates are due back about 2 weeks, 3 weeks after that. Expenditures are due back a couple weeks after that. And then when we get to mid-April, we'll have department head meetings with the manager and myself. But this is the item just to put on your calendar, just a recommended day for a preliminary budget presentation workshop. When we have that first draft done. And then
Can we, time out,
Oh, yeah.
can we go ahead and look at that and can I get
We're gonna look at that.
yeah.
I'll be away for work.
Too, hang on now.
I think I heard that earlier.
Yeah, I'm not gonna be.
Okay, all right, let's see.
Well, I'm available.
Okay,
And we're always here.
between Scott and Emily. Right now, if not the 28th,
Are you gone the whole week, Scott?
That weekend,
Okay.
okay, so if it's not on Friday, if it's in the middle of that week,
when, I could do Wednesday or
I-
Tuesday.
Tuesday I could do for sure.
how about Wednesday?
Wednesday will be tricky, but.
Yeah. I mean, we could do it we could do it Tuesday. April 10th to the 14th. Yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. That gives us a week and,
I think the further back you push it, just shows how much good faith you all have. So-
Oh, wait.
so you want to say Tuesday, April 25th?
Does that work for you, Zach?
Yep.
He won't say no now after he said that.
It happened.
Will it be in the morning?
Yeah, we typically will start at 10 and go till,
I just had a 3 o'clock conference call that day.
all right, yeah, we should. Yeah,
Please, please.
yeah, we. Yeah, 10 to,
Conference call,
10 to
so we
1.
get done.
All right.
Okay,
So then we'll still leave the other dates, the firm dates. We'll have the budget hearing and the May regularly scheduled meeting for the budget. And then we also have a, if needed, couple days in here, if we need a follow-up budget update workshop. So those are recommended dates also if we don't. So I don't know if you want to wait till we get further down before we look at availability, but and then we have a tentative date of Friday, June 16th for the adoption of the budget. So tax revaluation update. I was hoping to come just show you all, oh, here's the preliminary scrolls. This is what we're looking at for property valuations. They're not out yet. They're not ready. So they usually come out in the middle of the month around Valentine's Day. It's like a I love you present to finance directors, right? When those tax scrolls come out. But once we get those, we're working the calculation, and that's really the base point of budget revenue side. You know, finding out where we are, how we line up, where to go from there. So that takes us into the revenue neutral calculation. Basically, that revenue neutral calculation gives us the tax rate that would produce the same tax levy as the prior year. It is adjusted for the annual growth in the tax base since the prior revow, so 4 years ago. Just to give you all an example, this is an example that the LGC provides. We have this nice template, we plug in the numbers and it works out great. So I just wanted to show you without getting into like the individual specific numbers, right? But it takes the revow year here, and you see here how high that amount jumped. It also takes into consideration annexation, de-annexation, and projected growth values throughout those years. And it gives us, you know, the total adjusted here, the valuation increase and decrease, and then what those percentage change in percent equals. And then we get an average growth percent. Doesn't include the reval increase at all. So that plays a key part in that calculation. So when we do our calculation, we take the equivalent levy tax rate. So the easy way to think about this is if our valuations are 1 billion today, they go up to 2 billion, then the revenue neutral rate would be half. That's the easiest way to think about that. So this tax rate here would produce the same levy based on this valuation as it did here with this valuation.
Mhm.
But we have to take into account that average percent increase gives us this valuation. So it's not as, cut and dry as it should be, but just as long as you all are aware on that, that's how that works.
So Zach, I get hit with this question all the time. I'm sure we all do. So is there going to be this example, not the prior page, that was too complicated. Will this example go out with the tax bills when they go out, or an explanation of what's going to happen?
No. So the tax bills go out, July 1, I think, or yeah, so they go out July 1. What we will have is before we adopt the budget, this calculation has to be included in the budget ordinance. Like we have to say, this is what the tax rate is or was, this is what the revenue neutral rate is, and this is what our adopted rate is. So we have to show that in the actual budget ordinance before we adopt it. Now, can some, public communication go on before that? I would definitely hope so.
That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
Good. Nobody gets until they smile when we say, if you're paying $1 and we doubled our property values, now you're paying 50 cents per, they're like, oh, really? And you could prove that to me? That would be a good communication to send out.
We can work on that. But to your point, it's, if only it was that easy. Cut and dry.
I think this is very good.
Yeah.
This is excellent.
We just have to keep in mind that average percentage does play a piece in the calculation, so. I should probably stop because I didn't put any question slides in, but if y'all have any questions, just interrupt at any time. I did want to throw this in here, potential items that could affect our budget. Right now, the MAPS group, and I think Judy will touch on that later, working on the pay and class study recommendations, which affect the pay scale and potential suggested benefits. That'll play a large role. New position request, I think, informally, there's maybe 4 on the books right now that people are looking at requesting. I wanted to throw this out here and just see if you all may be interested in this for next year. A suggested contingency line item for council directives, basically the what ifs. And I think that was mentioned earlier today about the emergencies or what if, XYZ happens, do we have funding available for that? This is a way that you all can work that into the general fund, any fund that you want to, but it'll help plan better in long term. So if you were to do a, $500,000 contingency, and let's say our, 1 penny on the tax rate is 100,000, right? That's 5 cents on the tax rate. But if you don't use it, it goes back into your fund balance. It helps build your fund balance back up, because that's been a topic of discussion too. Where are we at in terms of the LGC's recommendation? How do we fall? And do we want to build that back up to where we have cash flow available for pay-as-you-go financing versus taking out loans for projects? So just something to keep in mind. We have that as an option available to us. Your contingency funds can equal up to 5% of your total fund. So,
And it happens every year. That's why you have budget adjustments.
Yep.
Budget amendments.
correct.
A big one we just approved. You could tell I'm lobbying for this one. We put in average legal costs, and now legal costs went up with the ferry thing, right? Doesn't stop us, we could save millions, but it costs us a couple $100,000. That's a good thing.
Just something to keep in mind. I mean, if you all are interested, we can, and again, the budget is a fluid process, right? So there's motion all the time. So we move these numbers, we move down, we play with expenditures, we look at cutting, we look at increasing revenues. It's fluid. So when we get there, we can look at that.
So, would you want to know now whether we want to do this contingency as you start putting your numbers together, or does it matter to you?
Leave that to Chris. I'm a fan of it, but it's totally up to you all.
You know, in concept, if you all are okay with it, we would pursue it with that in mind, but also knowing that there's a lot of needs with some wants, and how that looks, big picture with the tax rate and the reval and what the bottom line looks like in terms of any needed tax rate increase. So, but in theory, if you all are like, okay, that sounds, I mean, Jerry, I hear you, that sounds like a good,
Well, because if we spend it, it comes out anyway, and then we get ripped for budget amendments at our council meetings.
right? And if we don't spend it, then we can.
We still have it.
we can put it
Right.
back.
Yeah, my read right now is put it in there. Let's talk about it. We may pull it out. I hope not, but go ahead and plan for it in there. Let us see what it looks like.
Let's see what it looks like.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah,
good.
it seems like good fiscal planning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's also based on one other question I have to ask you, Zach. This is a difference in budgeting. If I understood you right, tell me if I'm wrong. When we knew something was going to happen, but we didn't have any idea what it was going to cost, we didn't put any money in the budget for it versus taking an estimate, because that estimate would be better than nothing. How are you planning to budget this year?
In terms of, we think that this is gonna cost 100,000, but it ends up costing 400 or 500 or.
No, I'll use an example with the legal fees with the ferry system. We knew we were gonna spend money on the legal fees in the ferry system, but we had no idea what it was gonna be.
Right.
So what we budgeted basically was our annual ongoing legal rate, fees rate. And I'm like, I'm the bad guy with Zach. I was like, well, we knew we were gonna do something. So we throw a dartboard number up there. We're more accurate than if we put nothing in. Right? So that plays into this contingency question as well, too.
But,
Answer, I think, yeah, so, yes. We would look at what our best guesses are, right? And then you could have that contingency as a backup.
But you are going to now start putting best guesses in, even though it's not the right number.
That's
That's your estimate.
usually how.
They always do that, right? Pretty much.
for the most part, we do. There were a couple things that we said,
That's what I'm referring.
the landscaping project.
Mhm.
We didn't know, I mean, we knew we had to do it, but we didn't really, we didn't throw a number at it.
Right.
We just said, we'll hold off and we'll wait until we get to that point. And then we'll bid it out and then we'll do a budget amendment to fund it.
Right. That's.
So
the
to your
question.
point, I think this year, if we see it as a need, or if it is a want, we're gonna throw a number at it.
Okay,
Best guess.
Right.
We'll throw a number,
because most of the time you did that per your point, but not all the time.
right.
Now you are going to do it all the time. That was my question.
Got it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so the department heads, just to those out here, we're unique in the way that the budget process is handled, in that we're a blend of budget preparation styles. So the way it's been set up in the past is that department heads actually submit a zero-based type budget, where they go through each line item and submit details. XYZ is $10, XYZ is, and I'm using generic numbers, right? ABC is this. And then we take that and we, get the summation for the line item and then look at, okay, where's the justification for these? So that's what the meetings with Chris and I entail, going through the line items with the department heads, making sure that there is justification and firm numbers whenever we present that to you all. So I don't know if that helps explain as far as.
No, it does, and explain what you usually do. I just wondering, are we going to move it to 100% of the time? Okay.
All right. So just.
I
some
just-
finance
Hang
department-
hang on.
Oh, sorry.
I just, I just want to make sure we're all clear that that's not going to solve all, that is not going to solve all of our problems.
Oh, for sure.
But
You're right.
budgeting, and expenditures, because, back to the question of legal fees, we didn't know. Appealing to the Utilities Commission to regulate parking and barge operation, it's never been done before. So, Charles and his partners they just didn't know. And so they did their best to put the number out there and, it's gonna change. And now, well, here's an appeal and there's another complaint and,
Well, some of that we didn't even know was gonna happen.
yeah.
No, this is
When we did
budget.
the-
A budget and
Yeah.
forecast is always wrong. So the only thing you know for sure is always
Got
wrong.
it, got it.
So I'm gonna talk about how accurate it is.
Okay.
I'm
okay.
talking about the process was, if it's too unclear, we didn't do anything.
Got it. I'm with,
That's the process.
I got
I'm talking.
I'm with, you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good. All right, so finance department updates. I just wanted to let you all know about our occupancy tax software. This is GovOS. The utility bills went out this month and they should have a notification letter or announcement letter in there. Just wanted you all to be aware when you get those. We are expecting to go live with individual property owners mid-February. So February is going to be a busy month for Zach, right? Then after that, property owners who we identify as having property rentals or rental properties will receive a notification letter in the mail that'll have account information and basically a login domain and username to where they can actually log into the site. They can submit the remittance for their property tax, not property tax, excuse me, accommodation tax, monthly submittal. And once we get those in, that's when we begin the process of checking off, making sure that those properties that are advertised online are remitting correctly, they're remitting what we expect them to, and that they're actually submitting their tax reports like they should be. So we're getting there. It's exciting. RFP for audit services. This was discussed previously. We have it planned out to go also the middle of the month. We'll get proposals back at the beginning of March and we'll evaluate those by mid-March and hopefully have it ready for you all at the March council meeting for discussion / approval. I like this one. So based on prior auditor recommendations, not this year, but the 21, he recommended that we go out and look at ways to diversify our portfolio. And as you all know, being government, we are limited in what we can do. There's a statute that's long, but what you can do with that is very limited. So the North Carolina investment pool is one of those options. It was basically created by local governments utilizing a management group. Their board of trustees, but everything that they do is in accordance with 15930. Their board of trustees is comprised of local government finance professionals, deputy county weight manager, finance director for Buncombe County, David, his name for Mecklenburg County, and then you have municipal representation with the finance director for Garden. I wanted to show you all what the investment pool is pulling in terms of what we're getting right now. So these two lines here are just our central depository and money market yields that we've gotten since July of 22 through December. And you can see they're slowly increasing over time, but they're still under 2.5%. The pinkish red line is the North Carolina Capital Management Trust. Many organizations, local government organizations use it across the state. They're bringing in right at 4% yield. The pool in December was bringing right at 4.5%. So they're above that return on investment or interest earnings. So what we have for you all tomorrow is there's a resolution to approve that we can open up an account with the investment pool. So like move some money over, start getting a larger, increase on our return, but just to diversify that portfolio even more based on those recommendations. I think it's a viable option. It's for local governments. And I mean, the yield percentages are great.
We have about 12 million in the bank. Just rough, not exact.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So 2% difference is $250,000 a year.
Wow.
Do you see any risks with going with that one? Usually higher yields mean bigger risks.
So so the disclaimer there is it's an investment, there's always risk, right? But with it being a government pool, the risks are definitely lower than what a private investment would be. And with that trend line, and I only showed the 6 months, right? Further back, they're like everybody else, closer to zero, right? But they've gone up so quickly. I think this month they were at 4.7% or January, excuse me. So there are risks, but I think the returns on the government funds, are good for this. It's like, they're worth the risk.
What club would we be joining? So what other municipalities are actually doing this right now? Do you know?
Yes, and I have a list right over there. So Garner, obviously, I think Raleigh was just wrong way. Like the larger municipalities, definitely.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I can't remember.
Where's the state put their money?
Sorry,
Where's the state put their money?
everywhere, right? I mean, they
So
make
they're
the
in this.
rules. I don't know if the state is invested. I know that the LGC has to sign off on every government investment pool in the state before any municipalities or counties can enter into the agreement. They do have to sign off on it. Now, whether the treasurer invests with them or not, I don't know. There's one more thing I was going to tell you. Lost it. But I mean, with the auditor's recommendation, doing the research behind the scenes, it's the best option, viable option that we could find. There is another up and coming one. It's called NC Class that many, they're just getting off the ground. So in a few, maybe a year or two, that may be another option to diversify even further. But for now, one foot in front of the other, so they start here to see how it goes. And there's no minimum deposit balance. It's a 1-day term before you can withdraw the money. And there's no minimum balance required. So no minimum deposit, no minimum balance, 1-day return.
But their money market accounts, not FDIC insured. True?
The one that we have,
No, either one of them.
no, the investment accounts are not FDIC insured. Yep. Even more so to diversify even more and spreading it out further. And then just to follow up on these, the financial analysts. First off, thank you all. I wasn't here last month to thank you in person, but I think this is a great step forward for us. We have the position description developed. I do have a recommendation though with that in appointing this position, the deputy finance director, in that we can comply better with 159.28, which basically says deputy finance directors can sign off on pre-audits, basically making sure that when a department head brings a quote to us, they can also sign off on it and say that there is money in the budget for this. So it would just help even further to do that. We have a salary grade assigned to it, and then I think Judy has that ready to post this week. I think we've already got it on the League of Municipalities website. There are 10 finance director positions open in the state of North Carolina right now. I don't know how many assistants or financial analysts there are, but just be aware that this is going to be a process, and we're looking for the best talent that we can acquire, right?
Since the council pays so much, can I throw my resume in?
Definitely.
Absolutely. And then financial positioning plan, First Trion's currently working on the development of the model. Everything that they've requested, we've submitted to them, and then the estimated completion on that is early June in that agreement. That's what I've got for you.
I want to know,
I didn't beat my record last year.
yeah, just a real easy one. How come your presentation has these things coming out?
I'd like to chalk that up to my graduate certificate of management information system.
Okay.
Yeah. It's one of those behind the scenes Excels tools. And then it just goes to black. But anything else?
No.
Perfect.
Thank you, Zach.
Thanks, Zach.
No, I can't get away from the waves. Okay.
Okay,
Insurance, wind insurance, do you have to carry that in village buildings and properties?
Say again,
Wind insurance, like.
wind insurance.
The club has gotten a huge savings by getting involved in this North Carolina wind insurance. Not to put the right name, but it's full of insurers and it. Big difference, big savings. So if you need information, let me know.
Jenny was asking about insurance on our structures, wind insurance and how our structures are insured and assuming that's covered through,
So we have three different, let's say three different types of policies. So we have our flood insurance, which is separate from property and liability. And then as far as wind and hail, I need to review the P and L, see. But there are three policies. We also have a separate policy on public safety vehicles. So it's a separate carrier, it's VMIS handles that, whereas League handles the property and Wales Insurance handles the flood.
I asked Chris because the club has just secured a very significant savings in premium by going into the wind and hail through this new, relatively new North Carolina insurance pool program. That's not the technically correct name of it, but I can get that to you if you want.
Because that is a state program through the North Carolina Insurance Commissioner's Office, I think.
I thought the North Carolina Joint Underwriters.
No,
That's why.
Okay. Well,
Separate.
If you can get us, we can get some of the details we can look into it.
Absolutely.
All right.
That's coming up.
All right.
yeah,
That's David on the show.
No one spend it, we'll get it.
Next time we have more.
well, we adjourn for the day. These guys can catch the 5 o'clock maybe.
Or do you reset?
We what?
Do you reset? Charles, is the proper motion
We would read that. We're reconvening tomorrow.
at 9 a.m.?
Well, can I get a motion to recess?
I moved you.
All in favor?
All right.